The parking lot asphalt was still warm under my feet as I walked toward my truck. Every muscle in my body was screaming from another week of sleeping 4 hours a night. That was when I heard it. Footsteps pounding behind me, getting closer. Daniel, Daniel, wait. Gerald Higgins's voice cracked like he had swallowed glass. I did not turn around. My resignation email had been sent exactly 6 minutes ago to our chief executive officer, the entire executive board, and half the senior leadership team. The email had an attachment showing our fourth quarter revenue numbers, $275 million, right next to a photograph of a $12 coffee shop, Voucher. My name is Daniel Vance, and until about 7 minutes ago, I was the Senior Portfolio Director at Summit Wealth Advisors. I had earned that title through 8 years of dragging this company from mediocre performance to record-breaking quarters. I had built systems, managed teams across 3 time zones, and personally closed deals that made our competitors physically ill. But here is what that title really meant. I was the person they called at 3 o'clock in the morning when a deal was falling apart. I was the one who missed my anniversary dinner because a client in Singapore needed hand-holding. I was the one who had not taken a real vacation in 4 years because they claimed nobody else understood the portfolio. Gerald's footsteps were getting closer. I could hear him gasping for air. He was not exactly the athletic type. Probably the most exercise he had gotten all year was walking from his corner office to the executive dining room. I threw my bag into the passenger seat and finally turned around. He was bent over, hands on his knees, his face the color of a ripe tomato. His tie was crooked, and there was a coffee stain on his shirt that had been there since our morning meeting. The morning meeting where he had handed me that voucher. You cannot just, he wheezed. You cannot just leave like this. I crossed my arms and leaned against my truck. Actually, Gerald, I can. It is called at-will employment. It works both ways, remember? You love reminding people of that during layoff season. His face went from tomato red to purple. You sent that email to everyone. Do you have any idea what you have done? I did know. That was exactly why I had done it. But let me back up and tell you how I got here. Our problems started 4 months ago when our chief executive officer, Lawrence Atwood, announced an ambitious expansion. Summit Wealth Advisors was going to acquire 2 smaller firms, launch a new tech platform, and break into 3 new markets simultaneously. It was aggressive, but the potential payoff was enormous. Lawrence stood in front of the entire company during an all-hands meeting and promised that this would require sacrifice. But when we pulled it off, everyone who contributed would be rewarded beyond their expectations. Everyone went back to their desks and prepared for the storm. Except the storm that hit my department was a Category 5 hurricane that lasted 12 weeks straight. My team of 11 people was suddenly managing the work that should have required 20. 3 people quit in the first month. Gerald did not let me backfill their positions. We need to stay lean during the transition, he said. It is temporary. Temporary? That word should be banned from corporate vocabulary. I started working longer hours. 52-hour weeks became 60-hour weeks. 60 became 70. My wife Sarah would leave for work in the morning, and I would already be on my second conference call. She would come home at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I would still be typing away, building financial models, reviewing contracts, managing crisis after crisis. She would go to bed at 9 in the evening, and I would still be awake. The blue light from my laptop the only illumination in our home office. Daniel, this is not sustainable, she told me one night around week 5. She was standing in the doorway in her pajamas, holding a cup of chamomile tea she had made for me. I know, I said, not looking up from my screen. Just a few more weeks, once the acquisition closes. You said that 2 weeks ago. She was right. I had said that. My team was drowning. The clients were demanding. Gerald was breathing down my neck for updates every 8 hours. Someone had to hold it all together. Sarah set the tea down on my desk, carefully moving a stack of folders. That small gesture of care made my throat tight. When was the last time I had actually had a conversation with my wife that was not me mumbling responses while staring at spreadsheets? Sweetheart, I am worried about you, she said quietly. You are running on fumes. Yesterday you fell asleep standing up while brushing your teeth. I had laughed it off then, but she was not wrong. I was falling apart in slow motion. My skin had broken out like I was a teenager. I had started getting tension headaches that felt like someone was driving a railroad spike through my eye. I had lost weight because I kept forgetting to eat meals, just grabbing whatever was easiest. Usually coffee and whatever granola bars we had lying around. But the worst part was that I had started to feel like this was normal. Like this was just what success required. Gerald certainly seemed to think so. Every time I flagged that we were understaffed, he would give me the same response. High performers do not make excuses, Daniel. They find solutions. So I found solutions. I automated parts of my workflow. I trained my remaining team members to handle more complex tasks. I personally took on the work of 2 senior-level positions. And somehow, impossibly, we did not just survive. We crushed the project. The acquisition closed ahead of schedule. The tech platform launched with minimal issues. We secured major clients in all 3 new markets within the first month. Our fourth quarter numbers did not just meet projections, we exceeded them by 35%. $275 million in revenue, the highest quarter in company history. I knew these numbers intimately because I had built the models that made them possible. I had been on the calls that closed the deals. I had worked 74 hours in a single week during the final push to get the tech platform launched on time, 74 hour. That is not a typo. I tracked it because part of me did not believe it was possible until I saw it written down. Monday 14 hours, Tuesday 16 hours, Wednesday 15 hours, Thursday 17 hours, Friday 12 hours. And that was only because I physically passed out at my desk around 9 o'clock in the evening, and Sarah came into the office and dragged me to bed. When I woke up Saturday morning, every part of my body hurt. Not sore like after a workout, hurt like I had been in a car accident. My hands were cramping from typing. My neck was frozen from hunching over my laptop. My eyes were so dry and irritated, I could barely open them. Sarah brought me breakfast in bed, scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. She sat on the edge of the bed and watched me eat. "What?" I asked, my mouth full of toast. "I am just trying to figure out if this is worth it," she said. "Whatever they are going to give you as a bonus for these last few months, is it worth what this is doing to you?" I did not have an answer, but I thought about Lawrence's promise. Everyone who contributed will be rewarded beyond their expectations. My expectations were pretty high. I had personally generated somewhere around $55 million of that $275 million in revenue. A conservative estimate of my work had probably earned the company a sum of pure profit that would make a normal person's head spin. 2 weeks later, Lawrence sent out another company-wide email. The subject line read, "Record quarter celebration and gratitude." My heart picked up speed as I opened it. This was it. This was where they would announce the bonuses, the promotions, the rewards for everyone who had sacrificed so much. The email was 4 paragraphs of corporate congratulations, lots of words like synergy and stakeholder value and operational excellence. And then at the bottom, it stated that department heads would be recognizing team members individually for their contributions. "Thank you for your continued dedication." That was it. No mention of bonuses, no announcement of promotions, just a vague statement about department heads doing recognition. I sat back in my chair and stared at the email. Around me, I could hear my team members reacting. Someone laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Someone else muttered something I could not quite hear, but could definitely understand. "Well," said Timothy, one of my senior analysts, "I guess we are getting bagels in the break room or something." He was not far off. 3 days later, Gerald sent out a meeting invitation. Performance recognition for the portfolio team. It was scheduled for 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, always a great sign. Nothing important ever happens at 3 o'clock on a Friday. The meeting was in one of the small conference rooms, the kind with no windows and fluorescent lighting that made everyone look vaguely ill. My team filed in, and you could feel the exhaustion coming off everyone in waves. Timothy had dark circles under his eyes that looked like bruises. Brenda, my lead account manager, had started bringing her laptop to the bathroom because she was on calls so constantly she could not afford normal breaks. Paul had missed his daughter's school play. Diana had postponed her wedding by 8 months because there was no way she could take time off for a honeymoon. These people had given everything. We all had. Gerald walked in carrying a small shopping bag from a chain coffee shop. He was smiling, which should have been my first warning sign. Gerald only smiled when he was about to deliver news he knew was bad, but was going to pretend was good. "Team," he said, setting the bag down on the conference table. "I wanted to personally thank each of you for your extraordinary efforts this quarter. What we accomplished together is nothing short of remarkable." We had heard this before, the corporate gratitude speech. I glanced at Timothy, who was methodically clicking a pen, his face carefully neutral. "The executive team is thrilled with our performance," Gerald continued. "And while we cannot do major compensation adjustments outside of the normal review cycle, I wanted to do something to show my appreciation for each of you." There it was, the catch. There is always a catch. He reached into the shopping bag and started pulling out small envelopes. He walked around the table, handing one to each person. When he got to me, he pressed the envelope into my hand and actually patted me on the shoulder. "Especially you, Daniel. Your leadership during this period was exceptional." I opened the envelope. Inside was a gift card to the coffee shop 4 blocks from our office. I turned it over. $12. I looked up and saw my team members opening their envelopes. Same thing. Everyone got a $12 coffee shop voucher. "I know it is small," Gerald said, and at least he had the decency to sound slightly embarrassed. "But I wanted you all to be able to treat yourselves. Appreciate the little things, right?" The silence in that room was deafening. Brenda was staring at her voucher, like it might spontaneously combust. Paul's jaw was clenched so tight I thought he might crack a tooth. Diana looked like she was going to cry, and something inside me just snapped. Not visibly. I did not throw the voucher at Gerald's head, though the thought crossed my mind. I did not scream or storm out. I smiled. A real, genuine smile that probably looked slightly unhinged if I am being honest. "You are absolutely right, Gerald," I said. "We should appreciate the little things." Gerald looked relieved. "Exactly. It is the thought that counts. The thought that our 74-hour weeks, our missed family time, our physical and mental health, our record-breaking performance that earned the company $275 million, all of that was worth $12. The meeting ended. Everyone shuffled out, clutching their vouchers like they were evidence at a crime scene, which, in a way, they were. I went back to my desk and sat down. My hands were shaking, but not from exhaustion this time. From rage, pure, crystallized rage that I'd been too tired to properly feel for the past 3 months. This was not just about the money, though that was insulting enough. It was about what that voucher represented. It was about being told my value to this company could be measured in the cost of 3 latties. It was about working myself into the ground and being patted on the head like a good dog who had learned a new trick. I had given them everything, and they had given me $12. I thought about Lawrence's promise again, rewarded beyond their expectations. Well, he was technically right. I certainly had not expected $12. I had expected literally anything else. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. "Are you coming home for dinner tonight? I made your favorite." When was the last time I had been home for dinner? When was the last time I'd seen my wife for more than a few groggy minutes in the morning? I looked at the voucher sitting on my desk. Then I looked at my laptop screen, at the financial dashboard that showed our fourth quarter numbers in real time. $275 million. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I opened my email and started a new message. The 2-line got Gerald's email address, but the CC line was where it got interesting. Lawrence Atwood, CEO, Clara Hastings, CFO, the entire executive committee, the board liaison, the HR director, and every single person who had been forwarding around congratulatory emails about our record quarter subject line, resignation effective immediately. My fingers flew across the keyboard. No corporate speak, no polite fictions, just the truth, clean and sharp. "Dear Gerald, I am writing to inform you of my resignation from Summit Wealth Advisors, effective immediately. I am attaching 3 items to this email. The first is our fourth quarter revenue report, which shows record-breaking performance of $275 million. The second is a photograph of the $12 coffee shop voucher I received today as recognition for my contribution to these numbers. The third is the internal audit documentation showing our flagrant violation of the WARN Act, specifically Title 29 of the United States Code, Section 2101. During the acquisition process last month, the company terminated 80 employees from the two acquired firms without providing the mandatory 60-day written notice. As Senior Portfolio Director, I flagged this regulatory exposure repeatedly, only to be told that high performers find solutions rather than raise compliance hurdles. By failing to provide the statutory notice, the company is now exposed to significant federal penalties and back pay liabilities that could easily wipe out our fourth quarter expansion profits. I have attached the employee termination logs and the compliance warnings that you ignored. During the last quarter, I worked an average of 68 hours per week. In the final week of the tech platform launch, I worked 74 hours. I managed a team that was understaffed by 45%, while taking on the responsibilities of two senior-level positions. I personally closed deals, representing approximately $55 million in revenue. I did this while being told repeatedly that high performers do not make excuses. You are right about one thing, Gerald. We should appreciate the little things, so I am appreciating the little time I have left with my health, my marriage, and my self-respect by choosing to no longer spend it at this company. I appreciate the little reminder that no matter how much value I create, I will be valued at approximately $12. I appreciate the little insight into what leadership actually thinks about the people who make their bonuses possible. And I especially appreciate this little opportunity to share that insight with everyone CC'd on this email. My laptop, badge, and corporate credit card will be on my desk. Feel free to use my remaining PTO to pay out my final check, though I am sure a $12 voucher would be easier for accounting. Best regards and appreciation for all the little things, Daniel Vance. Attach the revenue report, the compliance audit, and the photo of the voucher. The contrast was beautiful. Millions in revenue, massive federal liabilities, and a $12 voucher. My cursor hovered over the send button for maybe half a second, then I clicked it. The swoosh sound of the email sending was the most satisfying noise I had ever heard. I stood up from my desk. Around me, the office was still buzzing with end-of-day activity. People on calls, typing away, living their normal corporate Friday afternoon. None of them knew that several executive email inboxes had just received a grenade. I gathered my personal items, a photo of Sarah and me from our anniversary in Colorado, a coffee mug my team had given me, a small plant that had survived my neglect. Everything fit in my bag easily. 8 years at this company, and my entire presence could be erased in 90 seconds. I left my laptop on the desk, screen still open to that financial dashboard. My badge went next to it, corporate credit card on top. I walked past Timothy's desk. "I am leaving for good, Timothy," I said. "I just quit." His eyes went wide. "What?" "I sent my resignation. Things are about to get weird around here." I did not wait for his response. I just headed for the elevator. My bag over my shoulder, feeling lighter with every step. The elevator ride down from the 10th floor felt like shedding layers of old skin. By the time I reached the lobby, I was almost giddy. The late afternoon sun hit me as I walked out of the building, and the warmth felt different. That morning, I dragged myself in here already exhausted, dreading another day. Now I was walking out unemployed, and I felt more alive than I had in months. The parking lot stretched out in front of me. My truck was in the far corner where I always parked because I got here early enough to have my pick of spots. I was halfway across the parking lot when I heard the building doors slam open behind me. Daniel Gerald's voice. I did not turn around. I kept walking. "Daniel, wait." The footsteps started fast, getting closer. I could hear him breathing hard. He was running. I almost laughed. Gerald running? That was worth turning around to see. So I did. I got to my truck, threw my bag inside, and turned to face him. He was a mess, face red, tie askew. That coffee stain even more prominent now that he was sweating through his shirt. He skidded to a stop about 8 feet from me, gasping for air. You cannot just leave like this." I crossed my arms. "Actually, Gerald, I can. It is called at-will employment. Works both ways, remember?" "You sent that email to everyone," he said. He was holding his phone, the screen lit up with notifications. "I did," I replied. "Do you have any idea what you have done? Made sure everyone knows exactly how this company treats its top performers." His face somehow got redder. "You have embarrassed me." You have embarrassed the entire leadership team. Lawrence has already called me twice. Clara wants a meeting first thing Monday morning. Sounds like a rough weekend for you, I said. This is completely unprofessional, he sputtered. And that was when I started laughing. I could not help it. The absurdity of it all just hit me at once. Unprofessional? I said. Gerald, you gave me a $12 voucher after I worked 74 hours in 1 week. You told me to appreciate the little things while the executives are planning their bonuses. You want to talk about unprofessional? The voucher was a gesture, he protested. I have budget constraints. You know how these things work. Bonuses get decided at the executive level, not by department heads. So you thought $12 was better than nothing? You thought that was a good idea? He stopped, seeming to realize he did not have a good answer. Look, Daniel, you are upset. Take the weekend. On Monday, we can talk about this. I am sure we can work something out. Work what out? You are going to suddenly double my salary? Give me the team resources I have been begging you to provide? Acknowledge that you have been running us into the ground? We can discuss. No, I said firmly, we cannot. Because I am done discussing, I am done explaining. I am done managing up while being treated like I am worth $12. I am just done. Gerald, think about your career, Daniel, he warned, his voice dropping to a low threat. If you walk away like this, if you leave that email out there, you will get a reputation. This industry is smaller than you think. I hope people talk, I said. I hope every talented person thinking about working here hears exactly what happened. I hope your next hire asks you about it. I hope Lawrence has to explain to the board why his expansion came with federal compliance investigations and a mass exodus. Mass exodus? Gerald's eyes widened. Who else is leaving? I shrugged. No idea, but if I were you, I would check my inbox Monday morning. I am guessing at least a few people on my team are updating their resumes this weekend. That was not entirely speculation. I had seen the look on Timothy's face, on Brenda's, on all of them. Gerald pulled out his phone. I am calling Lawrence. We can fix this. We can make you a counter-offer. Save your breath, I said. There is no counter-offer that makes up for months of being ground into dust. There is no amount of money that gives me back the time I lost with Sarah, or the sleep I did not get, or the health issues I am currently facing. Everyone works hard here, Daniel. That is the culture. No, I said. That is what it takes to burn out. There is a difference between working hard and being exploited. I got in my truck and drove away. The drive home was only 20 minutes, but it felt like crossing into a different world. I called Sarah from the car. Hey, sweetheart, you coming home for dinner? Yes, I said. I am coming home and I just quit my job. Silence then. Okay, we will talk when you get here. Drive safe. When I pulled into our driveway, she was waiting on the porch. I got out of the truck and she wrapped me in a tight hug. You okay? She asked. I will be, I said. We went inside. She had made lasagna my favorite. We sat at our dining room table and I told her everything. The voucher, the email, the Federal Warrant Act violations I uncovered, and Gerald chasing me through the parking lot. Sarah listened, occasionally shaking her head. When I finished, she was quiet. You know we will be fine, right? She said. Financially, I mean. My salary covers the mortgage. We have savings. You can take your time. I know, I said. I should have quit months ago. Probably, she agreed. But you are out now. That is what matters. We spent the evening doing absolutely nothing. I slept for 11 hours straight. When I woke up Saturday morning, my phone was ringing and buzzing with dozens of notifications. Recruiters and former colleagues from the finance sector offered their support. Donald Gable of Gable, an associate's executive search, reached out with multiple opportunities. Timothy, Brenda, and Diana all sent text messages confirming they had submitted their formal resignation letters to corporate. On Monday morning, board member Beatrice Reyes called me directly. She apologized profusely and explained that my email had triggered an emergency audit. Lawrence Atwood was stepping down, Gerald Higgins was suspended, and Eleanor Winters was taking over as interim leader to clean house. She offered me a vice president role with full team autonomy, which I politely declined, explaining that it should not have taken a public scandal to make them care about their people. My resignation email quickly went viral across the industry after Brenda shared the news. People in comment sections discussed the contrast between our record revenue and the insulting gift card. Candidates withdrew their applications for open positions, and my message became a cautionary tale about corporate greed. I had conversations with 5 competitive firms. The most interesting occurred when Ronald Barrett, Chief Executive Officer of Aegis Wealth Management, approached me. He explained that my email had cost Summit Wealth Advisors 3 of their biggest clients, who moved to Aegis because they did not trust a firm that mistreated its top producers. Ronald offered me the Vice President of Strategic Development position with a 40% higher salary, 20 days of paid time off, and a handwritten note saying my value was not measured in coffee vouchers. I accepted and agreed to start in 4 weeks. My first day at Aegis Wealth Management was excellent. They welcomed me with a gift basket and flowers. Ronald's note emphasized building something great, sustainably. A few weeks later, Helena Davis, a finance worker in Atlanta, emailed to thank me. She wrote that my resignation gave her the courage to escape her own 55-hour workweeks under an abusive boss. Over the next few months, similar messages flooded in. Sarah suggested I start a blog, so I created Know Your Worth. Within 4 months, it reached 35,000 followers, leading to a book deal in 8 months and national speaking invitations in 15 months. The $12 voucher remained framed in my office. I spent hours drafting articles for my blog, sharing my years of corporate experience, and providing advice on how to recognize red flags. My first post, explaining how to spot early signs of chronic burnout and toxic understaffing, went viral within days. It was shared thousands of times on professional networks. Sarah and I would sit on the porch in the cool evenings, reading comments from exhausted workers across the country. They wrote that they felt seen for the first time in their lives. It was incredibly moving to see how many people needed this validation. It made me realize that my breaking point was not a personal failure, but part of a much larger structural issue. We discussed how to build online tools to help people negotiate better salaries and set healthy workplace boundaries so they would never experience the same exploitation. Meanwhile, Summit Wealth Advisors struggled as 16 senior staff left, and their stock dropped 22%. 10 months after quitting, I ran into Lawrence Atwood at a conference where I was speaking. In the elevator, he looked tired, his confident posture replaced by a weary slowness. He admitted that he got so focused on growth numbers that he forgot the people generating them. I replied that I hoped he was making better choices now. After my speech, he approached me in the lobby. He asked if he could use some of my key points in his new consulting work. "Daniel, with your permission granted on one condition," I said. "Tell them where you learned it. Tell them it came from ignoring your best employee until he quit in the most public way possible." He nodded. "I can do that. My first year at Aegis Wealth Management was excellent. We hit targets sustainably, and my team was fully staffed. When we had a successful quarter, they threw a catered dinner with bonuses." Ronald publicly thanked me for my integrity and leadership. Driving home, I found Sarah cooking dinner. She smiled and reminded me that I was worth more than $12. That night, updating my blog, I received an apology email from Gerald Higgins. He admitted the voucher was a symbol of how little he valued the team and that he had been demoted to senior analyst at a new firm. I closed my laptop without replying. I had a full night of sleep ahead and a job where I was valued. The framed voucher remained on the wall, marking the moment I decided I was worth more. I stood near the window, looking at the city lights, feeling a deep sense of peace. My career was no longer a cage, but a platform for helping others, and that made every struggle worth the cost.